Business owners are a special breed. They're determined, resolved, the embodiment of self-reliance and self-determination. But it takes more than just these traits to be successful, especially right now. In this special bonus episode, you'll hear the 6 things that Tony is doing to take charge of his own businesses, to defy the odds and emerge from this challenge with certainty and strength. Here's Tony.
Hey everybody, it's Tony Robbins. Listen guys, I know this is an incredibly tough time for all of us, and I can only imagine as a business owner the kind of stresses you're under, because people are stressed from the fear of the coronavirus. They've got stress worrying about their family, often having their kids at home, and then you have all your employees, your business, your clients, and everything else. And for the first time in history, we literally shut down the world economy. So you know what's going on. I just wanted to see if we couldn't offer you some help and some solutions. Every single day we have, 1.35 million people die in a car accident. 3,200 people die every day, and we don't stop driving because other people could injure us. They do every day. They cross those yellow lines and it happens. But what keeps us going is we're born with faith. I don't mean religious faith. I mean faith. The ability to have certainty in spite of the uncertainties in the world. There's uncertainties every day. You walk across the street and get hit by a car. You're driving down the street 60, 75, 80 miles an hour, and the only thing dividing you from a crazy is a little yellow dotted line. And every day people lose it and cross over and kill somebody. Some people do it because they fall asleep. Some people do it because, they're messed up in the head. Some people do it because they're texting, right? There's so many, it happens every single day, 3,200 people a day, but we don't say we're never going to drive because we can hurt each other. Well, how do we drive? Same, we're going to have to run your business with faith, with a sense of certainty, even though the world's uncertain. You got to bring that forth. That's what makes you a leader. And the way you do that is the consequence of not doing that. If I'm not willing to have faith, if I'm not willing to have certainty, even though every day somebody could kill me, then I have to stay home and do nothing, which is basically where we are in our lives and businesses right now. So faith, we have the ability, but we use it because we know the alternative is to have no life. And so we're going to be going back to work in our lives soon, but not everybody's going to go back with the same head. And so what I really wanted to do here is maybe just give you 6 quick little items to think about as triggers. Just a little trigger that I'm doing in all my companies. Just I have 54 companies, 12 that I actively manage, and they're everything from AI companies to a resort in Fiji to the LAFC football club, our MLS Major League Soccer team. And just like that's one example. Here we have a team. I'm one of the owners, and we have a season that's been canceled. So imagine you have all the same overhead, huge, incredibly successful team, mass number of employees, right? You built the whole new stadium, and now you have no ticket sales. We were selling out every night, 22,000 people, no ticket sales, no TV revenues, no sponsors, right? And all the overhead. So I know many of you are dealing with that same thing. Or in Fiji, number 1 resort in the country, been sold out forever. No plane flights are going though, even though there's been no cases of death in Fiji. The rest of the world's freaked out, so it's stopped. And I got 200 employees there. So I want you to know I'm not talking at you like somebody trying to pump you up. I get it. But what you and I have to do is really be creative. We've got to think things in a new way. And right now, while you can't be at work, perhaps with your employees, now's the time for you to figure out what to do and how to adapt, because we don't know what's going to happen. And what I want to focus on is I'm going to give you these 6 quick items. Then I'm going to take 2 minutes and just show you a couple of examples of people that are already adapting and growing their businesses in the middle of time when a lot of their competitors are shrinking. So I want to give you just a quick little checklist, 6 simple things that I'm doing as my way of how to work with all the companies I work with to say, how do we deal with this issue? The first one is you've got to realize that Humpty Dumpty is not going to be put back together again, at least not the same way. There's a lot of people that are super optimistic that we're going to go back to work and everyone's going to just go back to the way they were. If you're in the movie business and people have been out of the habit of going to movies, not people that go once in a while, but that business is based on movie goers. People that go 2, 3, 4 times a month, every Friday or twice a month, that's their business. Well, they've been home watching Netflix during this time, and they've been home away from that habit. And now there's friction. If I go out, are they going to put a thermostat on me? Some of the people in the movie business are talking about putting people initially 6 feet apart. Who's going to go to a movie with their date sitting 6 feet apart? So you have to think differently and say, okay, how will the world change? And how do we adapt to that? What are the things that we can do right now to prepare for it before we go back to work so that we're ready for that? But you can't do that if you're just going to be overly optimistic. You also don't want to be overly pessimistic. What you want to do is step 2 is you've got to know your numbers. Right now, more than ever, most entrepreneurs have a cursory understanding of their numbers. They'll say to their accountant, and most people are accountant, not a CFO, because CFOs are expensive, chief financial officer, and they'll say, how am I doing? You're doing great. You're up 10% on profit, 20% on profit. Some of you have been in business long enough to come to the end of the year and go, I'm 20% profit, where's the cash? And cash and profit are not the same thing. Profit is an accounting principle, it's a concept. Cash flow is what your business lives on. So you gotta know your numbers and you gotta call it tight. Meaning, just like you don't wanna over exaggerate, it's gonna be perfectly the same, and you don't wanna make it the world's over, because then you won't do anything. You'll just give up, you'll be out of business. Similar in your numbers, you don't wanna pretend it's the same, overly optimistic. You don't wanna be pessimistic that you can't do the job. But you have to figure out where the holes are, where the expenses are, where you're gonna have to cut to survive and therefore then get to thrive again. And these are tough decisions, which is the third step. In all my companies, I'm teaching all my executives, you gotta make the tough decisions now because they'll be much harder to do later on. You gotta kill the monster while it's little, handle the challenge while it's really there. And as leaders, all of us are paid to make the tough decisions. An easy decision anyone can make because the answer is obvious. You're not gonna be wrong. But when it comes to tough decisions, that's when most people look to someone else to tell them what to do. And that's, by the way, the few people on here, obviously there's all kinds of people in this environment giving different pieces of feedback as we've been talking, but the ones that are like, oh my God, you're not listening to these people. Well, you gotta think critically. You gotta listen to them and ask questions. You gotta compare the facts. Same thing's true in your own business. You gotta make the tough decisions. What's gotta be cut? What's gotta be changed? Where are you gonna go? What can you do to adapt? Those things need to happen early on now, not 3 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now, whenever it is, we end up getting back to work 8 weeks from now, whatever it's gonna be. Fourth, get help. Listen, I have a lot of skill in this area. I'm sure you do too, but I'm constantly reaching out to leaders who've been through this. I've been around long enough to remember, 18% inflation back in 1978, 79, I was a young kid trying to buy my first piece of real estate, a little triplex. It was 18%. So how do you manage that? You talk to people that went through the 1987 crash that was shorter, the 1991, 2001, when we went through the tech bubble, and then 9/11, 2008. It's really good to talk to people that have succeeded through tough times because they give you a different perspective. And I'll be interviewing those, and I'll be sending out some podcasts related to some of their messaging for you coming forward. But you want to get help. You want to brainstorm solutions and maybe do what we call tests of skunkworks. Skunkworks is, you might say, okay, for example, in one of our businesses that some of you are related to, let's say the seminar business, we had 12,000 people in San Jose, and we had about 2,000 people were afraid, and we gave them their money back, and we had still another 10,000 want to go forward. But the government wouldn't let us go forward. They made it clear we're not going to do this, large groups.